It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We do your emails as well. Read and respond to everyone. Read some of them on the air at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. So I spend a good portion of my day doing a lot of show prep for this show and for the John Phillips Show, which I co-host every day here on Noon to 3. And I'm constantly looking at stories, filing things away. There are so many stories that I go through that we never even get to because we have a whole bunch of calls or just more important things come in. But I tend to file certain stories away in certain folders that I have because at some point it's going to be relevant. And what do you know? I have been, over the last month or so, filing a few stories here that happen to deal with one of the essential parts of living in Southern California. And that has to be that we are in close proximity to some of the greatest theme parks in the entire country, between Knott's Berry Farm and Magic Mountain and Universal Studios, and of course the granddaddy of them all, Disneyland. So I've been putting stories away in my Disney file to the point where it is so full, it is so loaded with Disney-specific stories, we got to get into all of them. And none more relevant than the fact that I can't believe it's come to this. Disneyland is raising their prices yet again. Full disclosure, I have not been to Disneyland since before the pandemic. It used to be something that my wife and I, when we were dating, would go to a few times a year. At one point, I think we both did have a season pass and tried to go all the time. There was a very special year for me of full-blown underemployment where I was working one day a week and I spent all the little money I had on that pass that lets you go pretty much every day to Disneyland. And I went like 30 times in a year. Yes, I was single and I had nothing better to do with my time. But you know what? Nowadays, even though, we're people that could definitely afford to go, it's not like it's out of our budget range, but for two people spending a day down there and dealing with all the lines and all the things that you have to spend money on when you go there, because when you're adults without kids, you go to Disney and you go for Disney drinking, it is expensive. Like, I get to a point in my life where I start pricing things out in terms of other kinds of vacations I'd like to take, whether it's plane tickets, whether it's hotels, or we go to wine country all the time. I turn to price things in boxes of wine. For the price of just admission and getting into Disneyland with my wife and I, that's a case of wine. And not cheap wine. I'm talking good wine. But here we go again. The prices are going up. I guess inflation is still hitting at Disneyland, even though it's going down everywhere else. For more, here's KTLA.
About Disneyland. Yeah. John was just talking about taking nieces and nephews and how he couldn't believe how expensive it was. That's my take, too. I don't know how people afford it. It is so much money to go. And you're saying it's getting more expensive?
That's been every parent's take for years now. Boy, this place is expensive.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that if you have kids. And true story, my younger brother, who's 10 months younger than me, he has a 3.5-year-old son. He's going to turn 4 at the end of the month. He lives in Orange County, almost specifically because he and his wife are obsessed with Disneyland. They got married at Disneyland. And for the first 3 years of their kid's life, my nephew, they took him every single week because guess what? When you're under 3, the kid is free. Now, after he turned 3, they got priced out. There's no way they were going to spend that much money because guess what? A 3-year-old is not really enjoying Disneyland all that much. There's not that much for them to do. It might be a little overwhelming, a little scary. So now they have season passes to Knott's, which is way more affordable. And you're still getting the walking around everywhere and looking at all the cool stuff that you get at the other parks. It's just way cheaper. When he's like 8 or 9, maybe you go back for that. Maybe then you afford it. But I got to be totally honest. I have zero memories of my life before 5. Zero. So I'm sure my parents took me to Disneyland several times under 5. Don't remember any of it. So you didn't need to go.
That's been every parent's take for years now. Boy, this place is expensive. And today it got a little more expensive. Disney raised ticket prices at Disneyland today. Now the most expensive single-day ticket tops $200 for the very first time. Overall,
1 day. Is that just one park? Because sometimes they charge you more for the park hopper, even though it's all the same park. But, let's pretend that people only go there for California Adventure. Oh, my. Although California Adventure used to have the distinction of the only park that had booze. But I guess Disneyland proper has booze now, too. I do miss that aspect. The Disney drinking was fun. Go to that Carthay Circle. They have a fantastic Bloody Mary. But the real drinking is done at It's not Trader Joe's. Trader Sam's? No, yeah, that's it, right? Gosh, it's been so long, I can't even remember. But the Tiki Bar that's at the Disneyland Hotel, they got the good drinks. That is a good time.
Overall, ticket prices are up between 5.9% and 6.5%. Here's the thing. The Consumer Price Index comes out tomorrow, and it's expected to show that inflation as of September was running at 2.3%, meaning at 6.5%, that's roughly 3 times the current rate of inflation.
Everything else is leveling off except theme park tickets.
And if that seems...
Although I don't think the prices are going up at Magic Mountain and Knott's. In fact, those have gotten very affordable. They're practically giving away those season passes.
And if that seems a little, money grubbing, it's not a great look for the happiest place on earth. Make no mistake about that. And the price of a Macy's a Magic Key annual pass is also going to be going up by as much as $1,750. In some cases, that's going to be a 20% increase.
$1,700, I'm assuming that's for the most expensive season ticket or whatever they call it now. It was the season ticket, then it was the annual pass, and now it's the Magic Key. My verbiage has gone out the window. I don't even think I know how to Disneyland anymore. Last time I went there, they were still doing Fast Pass. I don't even think that's a thing anymore. I don't know how to navigate. I feel out of my element. It feels a little overwhelming. But I remember the most expensive pass being $1,000 not only 10 years ago. Now it's $1,700. That's per person. That's a lot of money. And that's just before you even get in the door. Hopefully that comes with free parking. Sometimes it doesn't.
In some cases, that's going to be
That's another thing my brother would do. He didn't want to pay for the parking. They don't let you do this anymore, but you used to be able to park at downtown Disney and you get 3 whole hours. So you go in the park, you park at downtown Disney, you get your 3 hours, you get out, you didn't spend a dime. Then it got to a point where you could do that with the validation for lunch or a movie ticket. So you had to go there and plan to do something at downtown Disney because you still don't want to pay the $20. The last time I went, it was at least $20, $25 to park. I can't even imagine what it is now.
In some cases, that's going to be a 20% increase. Now, to be sure, Disneyland still draws crowds, and high ticket prices are one way to try to control that. So
never works. You think on the base economic model, Disneyland has an issue. Too many people want to always go. It's crowded all the time. It's crowded in the off season. It's crowded except for like when they have those specific blackout days where only tourists can go. But it is crowded all the time. So you would assume, okay, well, if we start raising the price, that will limit the amount of people that will go. But the Disney fanatics are the Disney fanatics, and they will find ways to go. They will find ways to get there. Every single time they've raised prices, it has not resulted in lower attendance. They just keep finding a new ceiling. It is fascinating.
And
certain people do get priced out, and then they go to the other theme parks.
And high ticket prices are one way to try to control that. So economically speaking, you can see that there's a little purpose to all of this. On top of that, Disney is spending billions on an expansion of Disneyland and new attractions. So there's that.
We got to raise the prices so we can spend a whole bunch of money to build one new ride that you'll all go to for a couple years and then you get sick of it.
Billions on an expansion of Disneyland and new attractions. So there's that as well. But keep this in mind.
Of course, it's so funny to see the way they expand because they don't have any extra land. For many, 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 many years, Disney has wanted to buy that land where those motels are on Harbor, but it's never going to happen. So they've kind of just got to keep expanding vertically to where they have and converting every single parking lot to a parking garage. And it's a tight squeeze in there.
But keep this in mind. Disney's theme parks are wildly profitable. In the most recent fiscal quarter, they brought in $32.5 billion in revenue. That is up 16% from the year before, and operating income was up 23%.
They keep raising the prices and they keep making more money and people keep going. It is a perfect business model.
To nearly $9 billion, meaning these things aren't losing money. They're drawing in billions of dollars, which means when you raise prices by this much, it doesn't seem so happy. Kind of seems greedy.
Oh, well, it's the news. You got to do a pun.
Oh, well, when they do this, do they say why, or do they just quietly raise them?
It's not so much quiet. We saw it coming. Disney fans are not going to react kindly to sneaking something like this onto them. And they do make the case that they are spending big bucks on the Disneyland expansion, which is a very big deal, not just for Anaheim, but for the entire Southland.
Yeah, what did they just got the approval for Magic Way, so they're going to take over part of that street and then build another hotel. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
And also there's new attractions, and Disneyland is not.
And you know what? Our Disneyland doesn't have gators like the Florida one.
And also there's new attractions, and Disneyland is not a cheap place to run. But still, if the theme park division is bringing in $9 billion in profit, it's kind of hard to make the case that we need to raise prices by 3 times the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
So there you go. The cost of a single person ticket to Disneyland is going up and up and up on peak days. I think for just one park and one person, it could be as much as $200. So if you've got a family of 4, you got a family of 5, that is a lot. But you know what? People will still go. The people who love Disney, who love that magical experience, I get it. I would just argue in between the ages of 3 and 5, the kids will not remember. But do you feel priced out of Disneyland? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Vicky in Huntington Beach. Vicky, hello.
Well, hello, and I wanted to make a comment. I've been a Disney kid, you know. I'm a Disney kid and a Disney adult now.
Once a Disney kid, always a Disney kid.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love the art, and you know they are spending a lot of money. They gotta keep building something new for the next generation. And overall, I have figured it out. It's still a good value. It still is. You're not forced to buy lunch or dinner there, but, you know, you made a good comment. The alcohol was a plus, and it's still crowded no matter what. So people are still going. I think it's still a good value. Long live Disneyland.
You know what I would say, Vicky, is while things are definitely expensive there, the alcohol was never overpriced like it would be at a football stadium. I mean, the booze was pretty reasonable compared to what you'd see at bars just in Southern California.
Has a good bartender. The Cafe Circle does have a good bartender, and Trader Sam's, you know, they need to build another one. You can't even get a reservation to get in there. It's very popular, but I'd still overall it's a good value. And again, you know, long live Disney. And I feel for people who are, you know, young families. It is tough, and you're absolutely right. 3 to 5, forget about it, because they will. Have a good night.
I love that. Well, I could really feel it in your voice, Vicky. That was so nice to hear. And hey, that's one of the beautiful things about living here. There are people, I know them, I'm related to one, that specifically live in Orange County for the proximity to Disney. There's a lot of other benefits to living in Orange County, but that's the reason they live there. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Disneyland has raised their prices once again. Do you feel priced out, or is it still you're going no matter what? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Kevin in Laguna Hills. Kevin, hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Doing great.
Hey, you know what? I went last year in 2023 for my anniversary. It cost me we went to downtown Disney, had a nice lunch and dinner out there, spent the day at the park, spent probably $1,000. I'm never going back. I used to go there like every day it was my babysitting when we had tickets. My uncle worked there. He was part of the security team there. So I've seen everything. I went there this last year to see Star Wars Land. And after that trip that I had last year, I had no desire to ever go back again. ever.
Was Star Wars Land a good
It's a
time?
joke.
I haven't been since they built that thing.
It was fun. They had a couple of the rides were pretty fun, but like I said, I'm never going back. It's just stupid now. Spending that kind of money, $1,000 for two people, for two adults to have dinner and then go on a few rides that you have to wait. You only get 4 or 5 rides a day. Really?
Well, especially $1,000. If you really know what you're doing, you could find business class flights for that and go to like a real vacation.
Exactly. It was for our anniversary. We had nothing else to do. We live literally down the street from there. And, my daughter still goes, and she's older. I don't understand why they buy these passes. She says she's not buying one this year, thank God. But I will never give Disney another dime of my money, especially with their politics and the movies that they make now also.
Well, there you go, Kevin. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Happy anniversary. I get that. And there are people that's just part of the culture. It's part of the lifestyle, especially if you live there and it's close. You can go on a weekend. It's part of the fun. But has it gotten a little too expensive? We got a whole lot more Disney news to get to, including something about lines, something about disabled cards, and something about a weird, crazy lawsuit. It's all coming up. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang. We're diving into my Disney file right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're going through my Disney files. For the last month, I've been saving every Disney-related story, knowing there was going to be one day where we could talk about them all. We talked about how Disney is raising their prices, but you know what? People are still going to go. One of the other factors that is Disneyland is that it's always crowded and there's a lot of waiting in line. Now, when I used to go, I remember pre-Fast Pass life where you would have to wait 3 hours to get on certain rides unless you knew it, and there was no real way around it. Then Fast Pass came out, and my family got real good at navigating how to use the Fast Pass, whether it's from using the ones at California Adventure, and you can't do any more there for 2 hours, but you could cross over to the main park and do some over there. My dad was the best at that. We knew how to really make our time efficient. But the last time we went in 2019, they had gotten rid of all that. And they started this Disney Genie Pass and some kind of reservation on the phone. I could never figure it out. And then COVID happened and we just haven't been back since. But what do you know? Disneyland is now unveiling a brand new way to cut the line. And it's more in tune to what Universal Studios does, where if you pay us enough, you could just go to the front of the line immediately. I think Magic does that too. They call it the Flash Pass. Universal calls it the front of the line pass. Let's find out what they call it at Disneyland.
Mark, thank you. New this morning, Disneyland announcing a pass that will get you right to the front of the line. But your wallet is going to feel a little lighter afterwards. Lightning Lane Premier Pass will let guests bypass the line at each available attraction once.
So for a certain fee, you can do the front of the line on every single ride one time.
Unlike the Fast Pass, you won't need to come back to an attraction at a specific time. You can go whenever you want. Program starts next Wednesday with tickets being sold on a first-come, first-served basis. Cost of cutting the line, $400 per person per day, and that is not including the price of admission.
$400. Okay, so it costs you $200 to get in. Hopefully that covers both parks. If it doesn't, oh my goodness. But let's say it covers both parks. So it's $200 to get in and $400 to ride all the rides immediately without waiting in line, which means you could theoretically hit every single ride if you wanted to very quickly. That might be worth it. That might be worth it. To be able to get in and out of there and do the entire thing in like 6 hours, and you go once every 4 or 5 years instead of going once a year, 4 or 5 years and only being able to get on 5 or 6 things. That could be pretty cool. However, that's $600 per person. So for just a couple of two, we're not talking a family here. You're looking at $1,200 to do that. If you're a family of 4, now we're talking over $2,500. I mean, you can't go to Europe for that, but it's a start. I don't know. But you know what? Like with everything else, it's going to sell out immediately. So if you can't afford that, good for you. Disneyland really is. It is capitalism at its finest, where if you pay enough, you can go your way. I mean, you already had for the celebrities and the people that want to pay for it, you get those private tours and you get walked around with a guide and you go in front of the line on any ride you want as many times as you want, but you have to give them thousands and thousands of dollars. But you know what? If I had that much money to waste, I'd probably do it once. That'd be pretty cool. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang. When we come back, a strange, bizarre Disney lawsuit. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. A local issue that affects everybody is the life and happy and healthiness of Disneyland. There's a lot of people that live right next to Disneyland. There are people that move to Orange counties because of Disneyland. So I always am saving Disney stories to put them in the Disney file, and the Disney file is full, and it's time to open it up and tell you what's going on. We told you about Disney raising their prices, how they're going to have a brand new Lightning Lane. If you want to pay extra $400 per person to get to the front of the line on every ride, might be worth it if you can afford it. But let's find out what else is going on in the Disney file. I've been saving this story for a while, but there is a wild lawsuit considering one of the most premium experiences there is at Disneyland, the elusive Club 33. If you've never heard of Club 33, it is a private members-only club inside Disneyland near the Pirates of the Caribbean near the Blue Bayou restaurant, I think. I think there's a door that goes in there when you're walking around that area. I've never been. I've only heard about it. I would never pay to be a part of it. Well, there is a Disney couple. They don't even live in California. They live in Arizona. But they're so obsessed with Disneyland that they were able to get memberships to Club 33. And then, through certain actions at Club 33, they got kicked out and banned from the club. Not from Disneyland, but from the private club. And now, they are suing Disneyland. What did they do? Well, let's find out. Here's a report that I've been saving from NBC News.
Tonight, a pricey and secretive members-only club at Disneyland now in the spotlight. This after an Arizona couple's membership was revoked, costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees.
Oh, wait, they spent this much money to fight getting kicked out of a private club at Disneyland? Okay, these two must be well off, because if they're not, and they're going into debt on this, my goodness.
The park claiming Scott Anderson was drunk at Disney's Club 33, the elite paid membership club.
So, how drunk was he? Because the whole point of this club is it's one of the few places where you can be served alcohol. But were you overserved? Because that would also be on the bartenders, and I can't imagine that's the problem. Were they sneaking drinks off of tables? Were they pre-gaming beforehand? How drunk did they get? I got to know. I have had a lot of Disney drinks in my day. I don't think I've ever gotten Disney drunk. It's never happened. Too much walking around, and we always try to stay as hydrated as possible. But, you know, I never got to go to Club 33. But we used to go to the wine place, right, in California Adventure, and we would get 2 glasses of Riesling in the hot sun while we stood in line for the Toy Story ride, and then start the day at the Carthay Circle and get that Bloody Mary, which is where I learned that if you want a really good Bloody Mary, you need just a little bit of dill pickle juice in there. Oh, it makes it so good. And then there's Trader Sam's.
The park claiming Scott Anderson was drunk at Disney's Club 33, the elite paid membership club. But Anderson says he was suffering from a medical issue.
I wasn't found to be drunk in the park. I had a vestibular migraine in the park, which was horrific.
Their lawsuit to have their members.
So he says he had a migraine, but Disneyland says he was drunk.
Their lawsuit to have their memberships reinstated, failing when a jury sided with Disney earlier this month. We reached out to Disney about the lawsuit, but have not heard back.
I had 2 beers and a half a glass of wine.
So what?
Okay. People don't usually mix beer and wine. You either go with one or you go with the other. Mixing the two can lead to certain things like headaches. I don't know if you could bring on a migraine. I'm not predisposed to migraines, but why was it only half a glass of wine? Wait a second. Were you drinking the beers? Was the wife drinking the wine and she didn't finish her wine and you finished your wine? Because there's no way for the price that you're paying for that wine that you're leaving that on the table. Because if that's the case, I'm in this guy's defense.
I had 2 beers.
As somebody that finishes wine glasses regularly, I get it.
I had 2 beers and a half a glass of wine.
So what exactly is Club 33? The website vaguely describes it as a private membership club with a variety of tailored experiences at both Disneyland and Disney World. But Disney superfans share an inside look at some of the experiences on social media.
I ordered the Le Ramon Fizz for my first drink, which was delicious. And
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
And then the pear salad, scallop, and filet mignon as my first 3 courses. And we may or may not
Filet mignon and scallops at Disneyland? My goodness. Now I'm curious.
or may not have shopped for some merch. There might be a haul coming soon.
You get 50 single-day guest passes to the parks, private VIP tour once a year, LA parking, which honestly might be the best part of this entire thing.
Yeah, but how much do you have to pay to be a member? It's like thousands and tens of thousands of dollars.
The Andersons say it was a dream come true to finally be accepted to Disneyland's Club 33 at the California theme park after more than a decade on the wait list. No matter.
These people are dedicated. Also, I don't know if they have children, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being Disney adults. It's your money. You can spend it however you want.
After more than a decade on the wait list, no matter the pricey membership fees.
$10,000 back when we first joined. Today, that membership is $32,000. It's like 4 times as much money as we thought it was going to be. And it was like
$32,000 per person per year? My goodness, it must be nice.
we thought it was going to be. And it was like, okay, great. But, this is our world at this point.
If you're paying $32,000, bring me the bottle so I can pet it.
This is our world at this point.
Once they were in.
If you got that reference, you must listen to Willie's Roadhouse like I do.
This is our world at this point.
Once they were in, their attorney says they were regular visitors going at least 80 times a year there to get the VIP treatment.
I love the fact that they go 80 times a year, but they don't even live in California. They live in Arizona. So are they flying into John Wayne 80 times a year? Are they doing that 8-hour drive? My goodness. I want to do a documentary on this couple. They are fascinating.
There to get the VIP treatment and behind the scenes access.
We had just tons of amazing experiences. We had dinner inside the Haunted Mansion.
And to them, when they would go to Disneyland, they would have these fantastic moments that you can't recreate. You couldn't even set up, and they became lifelong memories.
Can you imagine being at a dinner party with these two? The amount of bragging that goes on. I dined inside the Haunted Mansion. Well, I went on it as a kid as a ride. It's pretty cool. It's even better in the holidays when it's Nightmare Before Christmas time.
And for them, that was worth every dollar, every cent that they spent.
The couple says they spend as much as $125,000 a year in visits.
They had to have done something pretty egregious for Disneyland to turn down this much money from the most dedicated fans in the world that are not suing for damages. They were suing just to go back to the club to spend even more of their money. Oh, my.
The couple says they spend as much as $125,000 a year in visits.
As any avid Disney person that would be your dream, would be to be a member of Club 33.
But access to those special perks means abiding by terms and conditions set by the park.
Private membership organizations have enormous discretion over who to admit and who to kick out based on whatever rules they decide.
As for the Andersons, they say they aren't giving up their legal battle just yet and plan to appeal.
They're taking this one all the way to the Supreme Court.
My wife's loved Disney her whole life. We are going to continue the fight.
All right, Valerie Castro joins us now in studio. A lot of people watching this are going to be intrigued. What else do you get with Club 33 besides, drinks and a couple of passes?
So the Andersons were members for 5 years before they were kicked out of the club. And in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, they say they got perks like hanging out in Walt Disney's private apartment at the park. They got to go to various lounges and bars.
Wait, there's more bars? I don't even know about this.
They heard about celeb sightings like Tom Hanks and Rebel Wilson. They also...
Wait, did they go there to stalk celebrities? Oh, boy.
They also tell The Hollywood Reporter that they weren't banned from the park, even though their membership from the club was revoked. So they've continued to visit just as regular visitors.
Yeah, clearly.
That is dedication. You got banned from the club that you spent your whole life to be able to be a part of, but you still go to the park because you've got that much Disney in your blood. You might think that you have a friend or family member that's a big Disney fan. Not as much as those two. That is incredible. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang as we empty out the Disney file on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're going through my Disney file today, a backlog of all the Disneyland-related stories that have been in the news the last couple of weeks. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, weird coincidence. Last week, I happened to find my 1975 Spring Family Night pass for my first date. Guess what it cost?
How much?
$5.
Now, was this when you still had to pay for like all the rides itself, or was it just $5 for everything?
$5 for everything. So it's just unbelievable. I've watched over the years this place just inflate. And then 10 years later, I was a reporter for the OC Register when the Star Tours thing opened, and I did a feature on it and a review of the ride. And incidentally, I compared the ride to being on a bad night on the MTA. Prophetic, huh?
That's pretty good. Love to hear it, Bill. Thanks so much for the call, as always. Appreciate it. When we come back, Disney takes on the fake disabled. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC as we go through my Disney backlog, filing all the stories that are Disney related, including Disneyland cracking down on people pretending to be disabled to cut the line. For the less honest among us, it used to be that if you showed up in a cast or you showed up in a boot or you showed up in a wheelchair, well, you wouldn't have to sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. Well, so many people have done it. There have been so many bad actors that now Disneyland is cracking down so hard that it's affecting the actually disabled. For more, here's K-Cal.
Well, your 10 at 10 continues with story number 4. Disneyland's tweaks to its Disability Pass program is drawing some criticism from the disabled community. They say
that is a community that will lawyer up very quickly.
They say
because technically you're not even supposed to ask somebody about their disability. That's the ADA.
They say it's anything but magical for those who struggle to stand in line for long periods.
You know they were going to have to do a magic pun.
Well, on your sites, Christine Lazara has been inundated with emails from those who say they've been denied a pass even though they are disabled, and this is really tough to hear.
Yeah, those within the disability community who I spoke to say they go to Disneyland because it's a place where they actually feel like they can do everything everybody else can do because it is so accessible. But many of them have...
When you think about the plight of the actually disabled, it is such an a-hole move to pretend that you are.
But many of them have
At Disneyland. Just for Disneyland. I'm not criticizing anybody that claims that they have a service animal on a flight. I would never do that because I'm one of those people.
But many of them have a hard time standing in line for long hours. As you know, on a busy day, it can be an hour or two, even more. And now they say they're being basically punished because other people were abusing the system. Disneyland unveiled new policies for its Disability Access Service, or DAS program, back in June, saying it would cut down on abuse and overuse. But many within the disabled community say they're now paying the price.
Go away.
For 14-year-old Ella Hewig, Disneyland is her happy place, providing her with an escape from the realities of living with type 1 diabetes.
We've made a lot of fun memories there.
For years, Ella held the Disability Access Service, or DAS pass.
I didn't know you could get one for having diabetes.
Enabling her to avoid long lines and instead return to an attraction at a prearranged time.
I sometimes have to get out of line, like do insulin, get juice, get glucose, so it's just like really helpful because sometimes it's just like you can't do that stuff in line.
When Disney changed...
Well, they should be able to, if they're going to say that you can't cut the line because of your diabetes, you should be able to bring on your cookies and crackers and juice and be able to handle your insulin in the line, because you need that stuff to live.
When Disney changed the program earlier this year, citing a 300% increase in usage over the past 5 years, Ella and every other DAS pass holder were forced to reapply. Ella applied in person at the park with her dad.
And while we were waiting, we could already see people crying. I saw a woman that was...
Can you imagine you're the employee that has to say no to the disabled kids? Oh, you're going to need a stiff drink after that.
Pretty irate, kind of yelling.
Ella was denied.
They said that we didn't meet the requirement.
Disneyland doesn't specifically list what those requirements are, only stating on its website, DAS is intended to accommodate a small percentage of guests who, due to a developmental disability like autism or similar, are unable to wait in a conventional queue for an extended period of time.
I predict the backlash on this one is going to be bad, and Disney will reverse course because you will not win this fight, especially when it's the poor disabled kids that aren't able to get their passes. So I'm sure it'll be a free ride once again. Hey, we got through all my Disney stories. The backlog is clear. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.